everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and on X. I am Bryson Carver. It is great to be with you on a Friday, a very mixed Friday, because on one hand, I am hyped as you-know-what for the college football playoff, which begins tonight with, one can argue, probably the best game of the first-round slate. You got Alabama, Oklahoma tonight, literally a couple of hours from now at the time that we're going live. Predict that game, predict the three games we're going to see tomorrow in college football. Of course, it's a Friday, so we're going to have all sorts of predictions for Week 16 in the National Football League. I'm 1-0 straight up. I picked the Seahawks. Obviously, we're going to lead the show off with that, and then the Rams side of things. But 0-1, obviously, against the spread, because I took Seattle plus 1.5, and they won by a point, and the spread was 1.5, so not great. But either way, I'm very excited about the fact that, you know, we got NFL, we got college football, and we have some NBA, and I'm not excited about it. I must admit to you, I'm not looking forward to this segment, folks. But what needs to be said will be said over the course of the next, in about 25 minutes from now, regarding my Golden State Warriors. But let's go and get into the outstanding game, maybe the game of the year last night. But first, the Seattle Seahawks led by a guy I've dubbed many times with the show, Slinging Sammy Darnold. Remember Slinging Sammy Ball? Well, most of us don't remember Slinging Sammy Ball because he played well before the Super Bowl era. Sam Darnold, though, who his kryptonite, and we talked about it on this show, going back to the end of last year, going back to about a month ago when these two teams squared off at SoFi Stadium. Sam's great against everybody else. He's not good against the Rams. Last couple of years, 0-3, all these turnovers. He had 4 turnovers in the last meeting, and they still almost won on a walk-off field goal in Los Angeles, or in Inglewood to be specific. Last night, wasn't getting off to the best start. Cooper Kupp has a brutal fumble in the red zone that cost Seattle a minimum of 3 points. Sam Darnold has the pick, the first pick that he threw in the second half that goes back almost a pick six. Might as well have been a pick six because the Rams and Blake Corum scored the very next play. And then you have, in the red zone, another interception. It's like, okay, this is going to be the narrative for Sam Darnold tomorrow. Like, it's really talented, wins a lot of games. Is the first quarterback in NFL history, and he would have done this in all likelihood, even if the Seahawks not won last night, to win 12 games back-to-back seasons with different teams. But it would have been, but what about those moments when you need him the most? And I'm not going to pretend in watching that game last night. Again, maybe the game of the year in the NFL. Might have decided the 1 seed in the NFC. We'll talk about the Rams in about 10 minutes. I'm not going to act like Sam Darnold was the single catalyst. Let's keep it a buck. Rashid Shaheed was the hero. And by the way, did I not say literally a month ago at the trade deadline, everyone's talking about Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner and all these. I said 2 trades keep your eye out for. Jalen Phillips with Philadelphia and Rashid Shaheed, who I've loved with the New Orleans Saints, ended up on Seattle. They didn't really have a legit number 2 opposite Jackson Smith and Jigba. They got one now, and a special teams ace out of Rashid Shaheed. Returns the punt for a touchdown. Seahawks convert the 2-point conversion. Makes a big play in the end around. Seahawks score the very next play and then get the wildest 2-point conversion you ever see. Anyone who is bagging on the officials for that, folks, it was very obviously a backwards pass. Sam Darnold throws it, gets, hit off of Jared Verse, and kudos to Zach Charbonnet for having the presence of mind to be like, I should probably pick this up and walk in just in case. Ends up being the single most insane 2-point conversion maybe in the history of the NFL. Certainly the most unlikely, where all 11 players on defense are literally not guarding the play because they think the play's dead. Understandably so. But when it was all said and done, with obviously Seattle's season as it relates to playoff contention was not on the line. They were going to get in the playoffs. They clinched it officially with the win last night, but they were going to get in as the 5 seed. Maybe the 6, I guess, based on what San Francisco's doing now. The Niners control their own destiny. But the LA Rams get in a field, or not get a field goal range, get the ball first. Puka Nacua, we'll talk about him later, makes a big-time play, has a career day, takes it for a touchdown. All of a sudden, Seattle cannot score. They need to score and get the 2-point conversion because they continue to talk about last night the broadcast on Amazon. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, who did a great job last night, kept mentioning, tie favors the Rams because the Rams have already beaten Seattle. Therefore, they get the tiebreaker. So Seattle needed to straight up win the game. A tie did them virtually no good, especially given the fact that the Rams have Atlanta and Arizona to finish the season. So the Rams are going to win their last 2. And Sam Darnold Clutch drive, a clutch throw after clutch throw. The one to Cooper Kupp was just a dot. It was one of the throws of the night in a game in which Matthew Stafford was nothing short of sensational. But you look at the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold in particular, last 5 drives of the game. Here was Sam Darnold. He was excellent. 2 touchdowns, no picks, 66% completion, 91 yards, 128.8 rating. Of course, the game-winning drive. Touchdown to Jackson Smith-Njigba, and then the 2-point conversion of a tight end to win it at the gun. Matter of fact, the Seahawks, according to Schefter, at the end of that game last night, the Seahawks are and this shocked me, honestly, the first team in NFL history to win a game in overtime on a 2-point conversion. That's never happened. Again, although maybe that's not that surprising when I think about it because the new overtime rules. What? My bad, guys. So yeah, with the new overtime rules, Seattle's the first team to do that. This gives Sam Darnold, this gives Seattle, who I've had as a top 3 team for almost 2 months. I think their defense, they didn't have the greatest day yesterday. Some of that's Matt Stafford just making outstanding throws. Some of that is Puka Nacua is uncoverable. Some of that is Sam Darnold was putting his defense in tough positions, like with that first pick, to where the Rams were at the 1-yard line. But that Seattle defense, which kind of has a beat-up secondary now, but Nick Emanwari, who how many times have I said it on the show? How many times I say it, during the draft process? Love this kid. Somebody needs to take him. Seattle ended up stealing him when it was all said and done. Safety and really do-it-all defensive player out of South Carolina. Defensive line, DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, the linebacking core, Ernest Jones, guys like that they've got. Seattle's got a loaded defense, and Mike McDonald's a great defensive coach. But it's going to come down to their offense. And if you're a Seahawks fan, if you're a Seahawks player, you're thinking, man, we just won a game on Sunday. We just won 2 vastly different football games in the span of 5 days. Because Seattle's blown the doors off of teams this season like the Saints or the Cardinals. They're supposed to. What do you do against teams that are either close to your weight class or in your weight class? In the case of the Rams. Sunday, old Phillip Rivers, should they have won by more than they did? Yeah, probably. But that was a defensive football game. That was they obviously hold the Colts to only 16 points. Again, Phillip Rivers. And was also then when you needed Sam Darnold to make some throws, he did to Rashid Shaheed. Again, kind of the MVP of their offense the last couple of games. Get them to field goal range and they win it against Indianapolis on Sunday. And then down 16 in the fourth quarter, you need Sam to make the throws. And he does, particularly in that last drive in overtime. With the division on the line, potentially the 1 seed on the line. Again, the NFC West could very well come down to Week 18 between Seattle and the San Francisco 49ers. But if you're a Seahawks player, in the back of your mind, they'd never admit this, nor should they. But it had to be we love Sam, good leader. We trust him, steady. He's not going to, there's no rock the boat type of situation with him. But I'm sure Seahawks players watched that game, that playoff game last year when Sam Darnold played the Rams and really struggled. And they obviously did play in the game in which Sam Darnold threw 4 picks and they nearly won on a walk-off field goal. And then they're seeing him struggle through 3.5 quarters. It's like, gosh, I don't know. Is the moment too big for him or is it a Rams issue? Because if we play them again in the playoffs in the divisional round or conference championship game, that could go poorly. Now Sam Darnold has the confidence. Now the Seahawks offense and this team has the confidence oh, he didn't blink. He's good. He kind of overcame that to a certain degree because this was a game that could get them the 1 seed. And so kudos to Seattle. This is a team. Listen, obviously if they get the 1 seed, it's a huge advantage. Not just because of that crowd, I almost call it CenturyLink Field because that's what it was called during the Legion of Boom era. I think it's Lumen Field now. But I know there have been fans or folks in the media that's like, Seattle's not quite as loud. Listen, man, obviously I wasn't in the Pacific Northwest yesterday. I was just watching on my TV like everybody else was. That said, it sure seemed pretty loud. That was reverberating through my television screen. That place seemed to have a legit home field advantage. So if they get that as the 1 seed, huge. But even if they don't, if the Rams did somehow win the division, or if the Niners, who control their own destiny now for the 1 seed, amazingly, if they end up winning the division, Seattle can take the show on the road. With that defense, the way they run the football, Sam Darnold, big arm quarterback who can throw it in inclement weather. He did it last night in Seattle in the second half of the fourth quarter in overtime. So, this is great coaching staff. Mike McDonald, we talk about Coach of the Year candidates. Can Mike McDonald at least get a mention? He wouldn't get my vote necessarily. I'm more in the Kyle Shanahan camp, Ben Johnson camp, with respect to Mike Vrabel. But can we at least mention Mike McDonald? These young coaches, man, they've done it. And Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, these young coaches have been outstanding this year. And then you got Clint Kubiak calling the offense. This is a football team. They literally showed you twice in 5 days. They can beat you in multiple different ways. Defensive slugfest, where the quarterback has to be clutch late. And then in a game where defense kind of doesn't have it, but they're also playing an elite quarterback on the other side, the MVP of the league on the other side, with arguably the best receiver in football on the other side. And Sam Darnold made the plays that matter most, and he talked about that after the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us it was just, for me especially, I've had games like this in the past where, I haven't played necessarily my best football and turned the ball over, but at the end of the game, you see yourself on the other side. It's not great when you have, interceptions and turnovers. You want to limit that, but all you can do is fight back. And for us, I was just going to continue to plug away and get the ball to open receivers and go through my reads.
His body language didn't change. His approach, his demeanor didn't change. Like, that's something that even when he was struggling with the Jets, when he was seeing ghosts on that Monday night game against New England back in 2019, which actually that game happened to be the day that Carving Up launched, October 21st, 2019. I remember it well. Even back in those days when Sam Darnold looked like, oh my God, this guy's a total bust. He's not a guy who's rattled easily, man. Going back to USC with the Jets, Carolina, we didn't really see him much in San Francisco because he was backing up Purdy. And then with the Vikings last year, and then this year, you can say that he hasn't necessarily played his best and biggest moments, and that's true. That's absolutely true. He was amazing last year, a fringe MVP candidate last year. Vikings won 14 games, but in literally the two most important games, Week 18 at Detroit and then the wild card game against the Rams, he was bad. He was bad in both. But you don't necessarily see that on the exterior with Sam Darnold. You really don't. You don't see him get rattled. I mean, I love Lamar Jackson, but you can tell when Lamar's, he's slamming his helmet, like, oh, gosh darn it, he's pissed. There's a certain aura about that as a leader that guys in the locker room buy into. And so, again, I know J.J. McCarthy's had a pretty good last couple of games in Minnesota, but if given the chance to do that again, I think the Vikings would have kept Sam Darnold. Feel free to chime in the group chat. 12th man off grid says, hey, what's up? Yes, feel free to chime in the comment section or in the chat via YouTube, IG, Twitch. What do we got? YouTube, IG, Twitch, Facebook, anywhere that you're watching the show. We would definitely love to hear y'all's input. On the losing side, though, the Los Angeles Rams. So it was kind of weird. So for the last few weeks, I'd say I think 5 of the last 6 weeks, I've had the Rams as my best team in the NFL on Bryson's best 10. But oddly, on Wednesday's show, I picked Seattle to win the game. I thought the weather advantage was in Seattle's favor. I think the fact that, they went to Los Angeles, Darnold threw 4 picks, and they still almost won. The fact that this Seahawks defense is as ferocious as it was, the fact that this offense was going to open the playbook up more against in a huge game against the Rams than against a Colts team with a 44-year-old grandpa quarterback. And also the fact the flight delays with the Rams, there were a lot of things working in Seattle's favor. It's kind of a credit to the Rams that they were in the position they were to win. Let's start with the positive. Even in a loss, man, it's kind of impossible to debate otherwise at this point. Stafford's the runaway MVP. I won't go so far as to say unanimous, but pretty darn close. Show Matt Stafford against one of the best defenses of football last night. He was awesome. 3 touchdowns, no picks, 457 passing yards. Fun fact, by the way, the 4 quarterbacks that have thrown for 450 this year, all of them have lost, oddly. 59% completion, that's not great, but a 110 rating and an 88 QBR, 0 to 100, 88 QBR. So Stafford was awesome last night. Made all the throws again, doing it in bad weather, inclement weather. Listen, Matt Stafford is from Texas, played at Georgia, played indoors in Detroit for 12 years and then plays indoors with the LA Rams. He doesn't play outside much. So for him to do that against that defense on a short week, and without Devontae Adams, by the way, that's kind of phenomenal. So listen, respect to Drake May, Josh Allen, Myles Garrett. I think Christian McCaffrey should at least get some top 5 MVP buzz. Jackson Smith and Jib, whoever you want to throw in the mix. Respect to all of them. They have not been in the level of this guy at all. And so even if the Rams don't win the NFC West, which would really be kind of I don't want to say a crushing blow, but it'd be pretty devastating to kind of be in the same situation Minnesota was last year. It feels like probably second and third in the NFC West is going to be gosh darn it, man, probably should have got the 1 seed. Instead, we're going to have to go on the road the whole playoffs. That is deflating. But similar to Seattle, the Rams are a team that I think can take their show on the road. They run the football effectively. Devontae will be back for the playoffs. Puka's unguardable. We'll get to Puka in about 3-4 minutes. They've got Sean McVay, who I didn't think had his best game coaching yesterday, but still is an outstanding top 3 level NFL head coach. So Stafford's right. He's got 40 touchdowns. He's a runaway MVP. I mean, Drake May hasn't played this weekend, but coming into last night, Stafford had 14 more touchdown passes than Drake May. Like, respect to the kid. Respect to Josh, who I would have Josh ranked higher on the quarterback, tier list. There's been not a single player in the league that has played at a higher level and has been more valuable to their squad than Stafford. Everyone's talking about, well, he's got a loaded receiving core. One of those guys wasn't there last night. So that has to count for something. So that's all good. The bad news for the Rams, there's multiple bad news, but the first of which, as far as the season in totality, because they're still obviously Super Bowl contender. I'm almost certainly going to have them still in the top 3 on Bryson's Best 10 on Wednesday. At the same time, this is a disturbing trend of losing games that they should not lose. The Rams have not been blown out this season. The Rams have not lost a game in theory where it's like, oh, they were just completely outplayed, totally outclassed, outcoached, all of it. Their 4 losses, we'll show you kind of a quick rundown, have all been really confusing. Week 3, they blew a 19-point second half lead to Philly with the game-winning kick. By the way, the kick also before that, getting blocked. 2 weeks later, short week Thursday Night Football at home, lost in overtime to the Niners despite San Francisco's decimated offense. I put that. Mac Jones was at quarterback. There was no Ricky Pearsall, no George Kittle, no Juwan. You had Kendrick Bourne looking like prime Jerry Rice in that game. And the Rams managed to lose. 8 weeks later, they lost by 3 to Carolina. Stafford committed 3 turnovers. That was kind of Stafford's worst game of the year. It happens. You can't win them all. And then last night, you blow a 16-point fourth quarter lead and lost in overtime to the Seahawks in a game where if you win, you're probably going to cruise. No, probably. I'll just outright say it. You were going to get the 1 seed. Again, the rest of the year, it's Atlanta, Arizona. They're going to win both of those games and finish 14-3 and then be just sitting pretty, 1 seed, week off. It's a veteran roster, right? Stafford, Devontae Adams, guys like that. Like, you want them to be kind of rejuvenated, refreshed. You only got to win 2 home games, and then you're in the Super Bowl. And instead, as we sit here today, they're the 5 seed, and of the top 3 teams in the NFC West, far and away the best division in football, of the top 3 teams, they're the only ones that do not control their fate for the division or for the 1 seed. That's Seattle. That's the Niners. So that's tough. That is that's a bit of a gut punch to kind of find yourself in that situation. And then there's this element to it. There are a lot of things that can derail a season that at one point look promising. Obviously, the first, especially in football, first thing you think of is injuries. Like if a quarterback goes down or a left tackle or a big edge rusher, like whoever. Somebody goes down or there's a cluster of injuries. We saw this with Detroit last year. I joked that next man up, well, eventually you run out of guys to bring up. Like there's only so much that your backups can do. We think about injuries. We think about poor coaching. Well, neither of which are the Rams. Devontae is out, but he'll be back. And poor coaching, that's obviously not the Rams' issue. The other thing that can derail a season, unforced errors as it relates to distractions. And in the last 72 hours, one could argue, it's the greatest Stafford's been, he's the MVP of the league. One could argue the best player in the Los Angeles Rams, who, by the way, we can show his numbers, had the game of his life last night, and that's saying something. Puka Nacua show his numbers last night against Seattle. Unguardable. 12 catches, a career-high 225 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, including the go-ahead one in overtime, and he averaged 18 yards a reception, basically 19 yards a reception. Unguardable. Best game of his career against that defense with no Devontae to draw attention from you. That's impressive. I've said multiple times this year, it's not fair to Justin Jefferson because of the quarterback play, so I'm not ready to go all the way on this take yet, but it's fair to at least have the discussion about whether Puka Nacua is the best receiver in the entire National Football League. It's fair to have that discussion. But over the last 72 hours, he has created He has created distractions and has had to force Sean McVay, and we'll play a bite in a second, force Sean McVay and teammates, players for the Rams, to answer questions that they shouldn't have to answer. So, of course, Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday night. Most of you have probably seen it. He goes on a clown, Aiden Ross's stream, and it says things from Taylor Swift's the reason the Chiefs didn't make the playoffs, to further, and we'll play, you obviously show the tweet he put last night and then quickly deleted, saying that the only reason the refs call penalties is so they can get on television to show their buddies. And then worst of all, he promises Aiden Ross that he's going to do an extremely anti-Semitic dance, touchdown dance. And I would be lying to you when he catches that touchdown to start the fourth quarter, when Stafford throws the insane no-look pass. When he dropped the ball, there was a second like, oh my God, he's going to do it. Even though he apologized Thursday morning and said that he wouldn't. And he didn't do it on either touchdown, thank God. For those that didn't see it, it's basically a mimic of an extremely anti-Semitic trope caricature. That's what Puka Nacua was going to do. So you have that component on it. You have the fact that he's saying, refs are just trying to get on television. And then immediately after the game is over, and he deleted it. But the internet, we know, lives forever. Here's the tweet that Puka deleted. Can you say I was wrong? Appreciate you, Stripes, for your contribution. LOL. And so you have that, and you had the fact that Sean McVay is having to answer questions now about his receivers' idiotic behavior. Take a listen. Sean McVay was not pleased.
What conversations have you had with Puka about his live stream this week?
Yeah, he was very apologetic. I don't think he understood the totality of some of the things. I think he issued that apology. I know this guy's heart, and for anybody that was offended, terribly sorry about that. I know he feels that same exact way. He's a young guy that's a great kid that's continuing to learn about, just the platform that he has. I love him. We're going to continue to put our arm around him and help him learn and grow.
Those guys coming onto your property at the facility in a short week as you're preparing for the biggest.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that stuff. They came on our property.
They were outside parking lot.
He said on the live stream that you were mad.
I was. I don't think no. Did he say my name?
He said boss man. I assume that was you.
It wasn't me.
I'm really bummed that Hard Knocks is not covering the NFC West. They're covering the NFC East this year. I wish they were doing in-season in the NFC West, because, man, that next episode is must-see TV for the conversations that Sean McVay is going to have with Puka Nacua. And I imagine there might be a team meeting sort of situation with that. So, listen, what he said on the stream and what he did on the stream, obviously, there's no defense for. I think it's kind of self-explanatory in its stupidity. You've got dope heads on the internet that are excusing it or saying this is evidence for a larger conspiracy. Those people are morons. And frankly, I think are a big reason why we've seen a spike in anti-Semitism in this country and in the world. But talked about that at the end of Monday's show, and we unfortunately see it play itself out. As far as the refs thing, so I've been on this since my show began in October of 2019. Been on it for 6 years. That when fans do it, it's listen. Colin Cowherd has a great saying: "Fan is short for fanatic." Like that's where I'm the same. We're all emotional about our teams, especially when they lose close and we feel like they should have won, or maybe there was a bad call that went against our team. We're pissed off about it. Of course, you're gonna react. And by the way, the players are the competitors on the field. The coaches are the ones calling the shots. Like, of course, they're gonna be even more pissed than we are as fans. But saying that that's the reason that you lost. We lost because of the refs. That's loser behavior. That's loser stuff. And I'm by no means calling Puka a loser. Listen, you don't go from being a late round draft pick out of BYU to, is he the best receiver in the NFL in a span of 3 years without working your you-know-what off? Without being, in the weight room, studying film, working on your game, great hands the whole bit, having this connection with Matthew Stafford. I remember his first game in the NFL, Puka Nacua. Some of you might remember this. Week 1, 2023. This was when Cooper Kupp was still on the team. Cooper Kupp had an injury, I think, in the preseason. This was like, oh, God, the Rams are screwed. The game, ironically, was in Seattle, and Puka went for 150 yards or something. It's like, who the heck is this kid? And he's only gotten better since then. So you don't get there by being a loser. But that is loser behavior. What he said in the stream, obviously, again, the anti-Semitic thing is despicable. But the thing about officiating that he said in the stream and then he tweets afterwards, kind of doubles down on it. That's loser stuff. And he said after the game, I was over emotional. It's like, there's a reason that players don't talk to the media until like 45 minutes after the game is over. There's a reason for that. Give them time to shower, get dressed, kind of cool off a little bit, reassess things. You can't reassess everything until you watch the film, obviously, but give an opportunity to cool off. And for him to impulsively, the first thing on his mind is, see, told you, refs. My guess is probably referring to the 2-point conversion, which was obviously a backwards pass by Sam Darnold that Zach Charbonnet, to his credit, had the presence of mind to pick up and walk in the end zone. Like, dude, that was objectively a backwards pass, hit Jared versus helmet. Charbonnet walked it in. Like, what are we talking about? And so stuff like that if this doesn't get nipped in the bud, and listen, if there's any organization I trust to extinguish this fire, it's the Rams. Great ownership, Stan Kroenke. Great GM in Les Snead. Amazing coach in Sean McVay. But you heard McVay in that presser. He's like, wait, those streamers came on our property? Like, you could tell, again, we don't have the rights to the footage. We only have the rights to play the audio. You could tell McVay was like, oh, I didn't know that. That makes the story a little bit different. I don't know if maybe Puka lied to him about it or whatever the case may be. But let's just say it's a good thing the Rams have an extra long week of practice. They don't play till next Monday against the Atlanta Falcons. That game's on the road in Atlanta. But listen, clearly the fallout did not affect Puka's play, quite literally the best game of his career. But this could follow the Rams the rest of the season as like kind of this dark cloud, because you go from the drama from that to losing a heartbreaking game to Seattle that you should have won, to now we could end up finding ourselves as the 6th seed when it's all said and done, which would be, it would not be a death sentence to this team, but it would be devastating. So, yeah, just again, as far as the stream's concerned, idiotic and despicable behavior on the part of Puka Nacua. Again, he issued an apology. I talked about this Diego Pavia on Wednesday. Those, when you tend to read it and say, okay, did a PR person write this? Did your team write this? Let's see what his actions say the rest of the way. But everyone deserves a second chance. Hope he doesn't still harbor those evil beliefs. And then as far as the ref stuff, like, dude, grow up. Grow up. And that's any player who's blamed refs, whether it's impulsive or not. Like, they're not the reason that you lost the football game. I've always used the example, and then we'll move on to the NBA. Ironically, a game that actually favored the Rams. The game against New Orleans 2018 NFC title game, where there's a clear and obvious pass interference. It's the worst PI that was never called in the history of the league. We all remember it. And Saints players were like, this is the reason that we lost. And so much so that they got a stupid rule change for the following season where you could review pass interference. It was so dumb, the league got rid of it. It was just to appease the Saints and shut Sean Payton and the front office up. Like, it was a terrible rule. And they said that was the reason they lost. Okay, bro, the game was tied. You kicked a field goal. You bombed clock management before that. The Rams should have had less than a minute. They end up having a minute and a half. Goff gets them in field goal range. Zerline hits a kick. You win the toss, and Drew Brees throws a pick. You had multiple opportunities to win that game right before and then after the PI that should have been called. Of course it should have been called. But that's one play. You had multiple plays, multiple opportunities to slam the door, and you didn't. And so, and that game wasn't even poorly officiated, too. I'm talking about not the NFC Championship game. I'm talking about the game last night. So I don't know what Puka's talking about. Okay. Boy. I didn't think I'd necessarily have to do this segment, to be quite frank. I thought that as time goes on, my guys would right the ship and wouldn't have to do a big diatribe like I'm about to do over the next however long. But as most of you, or some of you might remember, a couple of months ago, I did my Carving It Up 6-year anniversary special, and there were a lot of things that happened to fall on opening night of the NBA season. And so, naturally, as I do every year, I make my preseason predictions for MVP, Coach of the Year, who's going to be the 1 seed, Conference Finals, NBA Finals, Finals MVP. And I said, if healthy, Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, that my Warriors will win the championship. And there were signs earlier like, oh, you beat the Lakers. Ooh, you beat Denver? You beat a healthy, rejuvenated Nuggets team? Like, okay, there might be something here. You get off to, I think it was a 5-1 start. And from there, the Warriors have lost, let's do the math here. Okay, they've lost 14 of their last 22 games or something like that. Like, it's not going well. And they lost last night to the Phoenix Suns in just pretty devastating fashion. I'm watching this game alongside the football game last night. We'll get to part of the reason why the Warriors were even in that position later, but what you need to know is the game was tied. Phoenix had the ball, chance to win the game. Dylan Brooks, I know this is going to shock people, absolutely bricks a game-winning attempt, offensive rebound, and Moses Moody fouls the guy with 0.4 seconds left. And so it cost the Warriors the game. Hits one free throw and the Suns win. And this has been a recurring theme with the Warriors this season. Matter of fact, we can show you the numbers. Is the fact that record in clutch games. Last year, you see that 25-18. The Warriors were 25-18 record in clutch games. For those that don't know, clutch games is anytime the score is within 5 points with 5 minutes or less to go, that counts as a clutch game. The Warriors were 25-18 at that last year, but even more so, post Jimmy Butler trade, the last 2 months of the season, 9-4 in clutch games. This year, 5-10. All right, they win one of their every 3 clutch games this season. That ain't going to cut it. That ain't going to work. And it's not because of their defense, which I said religiously, it's been one of the best in basketball since they acquired Jimmy. Last 2 months of the season post acquiring Jimmy, best defensive league in terms of defensive rating. This year, 4th. They're still an elite defense. The offensive rating is 22nd in the NBA. That's with Steph Curry on pace to have the greatest age 38. He's not 38 yet. He's going to be 38 in March. The greatest age 38 season in the history of the league. Surpassing LeBron James back in 2022, 2023. He's averaging 28.8 a game. Multiple 40-point games this year. He's got more 35-point scoring games after turning 30 than Michael Jordan. So Steph's having one of the best years of his career at age 37 going on age 38. So obviously, any chance for the Warriors to be competitive? Is Steph aging? No. He didn't have a good game last night, but he's been great. The shot's been there. The handle, he's out here breaking guys' ankles. Explosiveness is not quite what it was in like prime Steph years, but it's there enough to get clean looks. I know a lot of people are going to go after Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr I feel like I'm like the only Gen Z Warriors fan that thinks Steve Kerr can actually coach basketball at an elite level. I don't know. He's a 4-time champion. Steve Kerr's not the problem. Here's the problem. It's threefold in my opinion. Number one, and you saw it literally on the last play of the game last night. The Warriors don't have size. They just don't. That's been something they put off for a while. They thought adding an old Al Horford, who I still think was a solid addition. He can still hit the corner three. Like Al Horford can still be an effective player on this team coming off the bench. But he's not coming in to get you rebounds. He wasn't on the floor last night. Quentin Post, he's a stretch 5. He's not a guy who's going to get the boards. I mean, I thought Steph Curry late was the Warriors' best rebounder when it was all said and done. 6'3" Steph Curry. So I think the Warriors, they're going to trade Jonathan Kuminga. That's a foregone conclusion. He's not in the rotation. I think a big reason for that, A, is he doesn't fit on the floor with the guys, and B, I think Steve Kerr and the front office are like, we do not want to jeopardize this guy getting injured, and then it just totally nixes a trade. Because for those that don't know, January 15th, they can't trade Kuminga until January 15th. From that point on, they can move on from him. And my guess is they almost certainly will. Herb Jones in New Orleans, which to me would be a perfect fit with the Warriors. Would love to see that. And then I think you want to put together a package, Brandon Pajemski, maybe a pick or two to get you some size. Whether it's for Miles Turner with Milwaukee Bucks, somebody to come in, grab the boards, be a rim protector. By the way, Miles Turner, like Al Horford and like Quentin Post, he can shoot the three. You add Herb Jones in place of Kuminga. You add Miles Turner in place of Pods. You'll probably have to include a pick or two in that. Maybe a bench player. You're good. You're golden. You're set. But even still, A guy I have defended at every turn and freaking love him. Draymond Green. The defense is still excellent. Not prime Draymond, but it's still excellent. Draymond Green is still an elite defender in the NBA. But so much of what has made Draymond Green great, so much is what's to the chagrin of people who I guess who do not know basketball, what is going to make him a Hall of Famer is how he can run the offense. Like, it's a toss-up. Is Steph going to bring the ball up the floor? Maybe our de facto point guard. Is Draymond Green going to play that same role? Oftentimes, it tends to be Draymond. The mental telepathy he has with Steph, it's like, I mean, they speak the same basketball language on the floor offensively. Incredibly intelligent player. Did you know in the last 2 games, Draymond Green has 13 turnovers? Last night in the fourth quarter, he had some brutal ones where he's trying to get it to Steph, even though Steph's double-teamed, is throwing passes across his body when a Phoenix Suns player is coming in help to jump the pass, a Devin Booker or a Gillespie or somebody like that. So in order for Draymond to be at his best, the defense is always going to be there. His length, his intelligence, quickness, ability to defend all 5 positions on the floor cannot be offset by bad offense. Can't be offset by turnovers. In the last 2 games, they have 13 turnovers in 2 games by one player. And then, thirdly, and lastly, I guess, the whole reason, and before we even go into it, folks might be thinking, come on, Bryce, you're kind of overreacting a little bit. Like, we know the West is loaded. Okay, see, self-explanatory. The Spurs look great, and Houston's deep. They got Kevin Durant, Şengün, and Thompson, all these guys, and he got Denver with Jokic, best player in the world. That's just the West. This was Shams Charania today on NBA Today on ESPN saying this. I'm like, thank you. That's what I thought the goals were coming into the season. Shams Charania earlier today talking about the Golden State Warriors struggles and what they expected to do this season.
Frustration across the board with the Warriors. Joe Lacob, obviously, with ownership, front office, coaches, players, because internally, my understanding is the Warriors projected this team to win 50 or more games this season. They felt like the big 3 of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler was enough to propel this team.
Yeah, me too. I think everybody thought that. Given the fact that the Golden State Warriors were objectively a top 5 basketball team after acquiring Jimmy. Given the fact that they were the best defensive team in basketball in terms of defensive rating after acquiring Jimmy. Given the fact that they were 9-4 in clutch games after acquiring Jimmy Butler. Given the fact that, and again, we'll never know, but if Steph Curry doesn't pull his hamstring, game 1 against Minnesota, I have no doubt in my mind we beat Minnesota. Because there are even moments without Steph where the Warriors have opportunities to win. They just didn't have their guy on the floor. Who's to say they don't beat Oklahoma City? And before you laugh, beat up Denver team, took them 7. Beat up Indiana team, took them 7. Tell me the Warriors would have just gotten blown off the floor. What are they, Memphis? So worst case, Western Conference Finals last year. So you expect with a full season of those 3 guys to elevate to a different level. The Warriors aren't 13-15 because Steph Curry is declining as a player. He's having one of the best years of his career. He's averaging 28, almost 29 a game. He's out here breaking Jordan's records out here. He is, we talk about LeBron's longevity, and it is special. Talked about it extensively on this show. I'd argue Steph's right behind him. All time in terms of sustaining greatness over a long period of time. The man is still arguably a top 5 player in the game at 37 going on 38 years old. In year 17. And Draymond hasn't done his job on the offensive end as it pertains to playing smart, clean basketball. Jimmy Butler, folks, has played 24 games this year. Did you know in 17 of them he's taken fewer than 15 shots? That can happen. That cannot happen. Now, last night he was good. He had 31 last night. He'll have those occasional moments, and I'm not expecting Jimmy to be 2023 playoffs Jimmy. Remember when he took out Milwaukee and he eliminated the 1 seed or the 2 seed Celtics in the conference finals? I'm not expecting that from Jimmy. But you came there to be Robin to Steph's Batman. The Warriors are paying you $54 million. Like, you're supposed to be that number 2 guy. You're supposed to step up if Steph's having an off night, which you did last night, to your credit. But more times than not, that has not been the case this season. The aggressiveness has not been there. I mean, it feels like we're dealing with a more talented Andrew Wiggins right now. And I love Wiggins. He helped us get a championship, but that was always the issue with Wiggins. Not aggressive enough. We're seeing that with Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy, got to see you be more aggressive. The offense got to be more clean. A lot of the reason the offense rating is so low is because they keep turning the basketball over. Draymond Green last 2 games, 13 turnovers. And because the fact they're too little. So I think moving Kuminga for Herb Jones and moving Brandon Pajemski and maybe a pick for a big like a Miles Turner. If you have to attach a second pick, if Milwaukee's like, hey, total fire sale, like we're going to get a couple picks for Miles Turner, and then we're obviously going to get a giant package from somebody, presumably like the Spurs, for Giannis, and then totally rebuild this thing. So by no means am I saying, oh, Warriors are dead. They're done. 13-15, they're cooked. Man, we've seen 8 seeds go to the finals. We've seen 7 seeds go to the Western Conference Finals, and that's just in the last 5 years. I've seen Golden State this season with their backups, with Pat Spencer, come close to beating the Thunder this season. I've seen them beat Denver this season. It's there. Same team as last year, with the ability to make improvements to your holes. But show the stat one more time. They cannot close basketball games. Here you go. That's the difference right there. They won 58% of their games last year in clutch games. 5-10 this year, 33%. Ain't going to cut it. Not in this league. Steph Curry talked about it after the game last night, and he sort of detailed his concerns about that very thing.
Collectively not doing enough to win. I don't think it's, we're 5-10 or something like that in close games, but there's moments throughout the game. I know you can always nitpick possessions, but there's just moments where either you have momentum and you can't stretch a lead, or it's kind of back and forth, and they go on that little 7-0 run in the middle of the fourth quarter. So the fact that we're giving ourselves, a chance with the fight down the stretch is positive, but then you're giving, leaving it to a make here, a miss here, a foul on offense, a rebound, and one free throw. Like, as a team trying to figure it out, those are tough because the ball could bounce either way. We got to do more throughout the meat of the game to take advantage of those runs that we have. You're up 14 in the 13-14 in the third quarter, and they walk you down. Like, those are the deflating moments. But thankfully, we have resilience, so we come back. But I'm more worried about that than the end of the game stuff.
Okay. And again, he said it. Early third quarter, Warriors were up 14. But again, today's NBA 14-point lead is not that big. With the three-point shot, with the pace of play, that's 14-point lead in 2025 is not what it was in 1995. It's a different game, as we all know. And Steph's arguably the biggest reason for that. But it's frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you. It really, really is. To see a team that clearly does have it. Top 5 defense. Steph still playing the peak of his powers. Great coach, despite what Gen Z Warriors fans on Twitter think. Got to fill in holes at center. I think you could do that with a Brandon Pajemski and a couple of picks to the Milwaukee Bucks for Miles Turner, and then move Jonathan Kuminga for Herb Jones. All of a sudden, you got yourself a squad because the bench is already excellent. You're good. You're deep. That's not an issue. Got shooters like Buddy Hield and Seth Curry. You've got young guys who can still contribute. Moses Moody, Quentin Post, Will Richard, who I do. That's my only knock on Kerr. I want to see Richard get more minutes. He's been a great get for us, but it is really frustrating, man. But long season, it's December. Not gonna panic yet. If it's March and the Warriors are just a hair above 500, then I'm in a full-blown panic. I'm like, oh my God, this is not the season I thought it was going to be. But the solutions are there. It's just a matter of whether the Warriors can tap into them, just like they did a season ago. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, it's all predictions from here, folks. 4 college football playoff games in the first round, one of which that kicks off in a little over an hour between Alabama, Oklahoma. How good of a matchup is that to kick off the CFP? And then the 3 games tomorrow. And of course, after that, NFL Week 16 predictions. 2 games tomorrow. Then you got a slew of games, I think 12 to be exact, on Sunday. Great stuff. We'll be back in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Do not go anywhere. back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Friday. This has just been a loaded week of shows. We got obviously a ton of NFL. I mean, that just comes with the territory. And then you got some NBA the last few days. People panicking about the cup being awful. Then you got college football, which I'm going to predict the 4 first-round playoff games in just a moment. The Diego Pavia video is people seem to be responding to it on YouTube, which I really appreciate. For those that have not seen it, feel free to check it out. There's obviously a short on YouTube, TikTok, IG, but feel free to check out the full video on my dissertation on Diego Pavia's fall from being one of the most beloved players in college football, like the underdog story, Baker Mayfield 2.0 of college football, to God, I can't stand this guy. He's a jerk. So feel free to check out my breakdown on that subject, because it's doing very well on YouTube, which I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to check that out and to engage with that. With that being said, we've got 4 first-round games to kick off the college football playoff. It is always a goal of mine. I've never accomplished it in any playoff, whether it's outside the NCAA tournament, because that's impossible, whether it's the college football playoff, whether it's the NBA playoffs, baseball, NFL. I try to go perfect. I try to go undefeated. I have a feeling I'm taking a big swing in one of these games. I think I got a shot to do it. I really do. Why can I expect any of you guys to believe in me if I do not first believe in myself? So here we go. Get the background music going, baby. It's the college football playoff, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. All right, we will start. Man, this is like getting the entree right off the bat. No appetizer. We're just starting. Boom. SEC matchup. It is the Alabama Crimson Tide. It is the Oklahoma Sooners. 2 of the blue blood storied college football programs into the history of the sport. Oklahoma favored -1.5. Now, of course, these teams played about a month ago. Oklahoma did win that game in Tuscaloosa. Now Alabama, fresh off of a blowout loss in the SEC championship game to Georgia, has to go on the road to Norman to take on the Sooners, who quite simply have one of the best defenses in college football. You talk about scoring, they're in the top 5. You talk about a guy in Brent Venables who, listen, his teams offensively in Oklahoma have not been very good. That said, if you remember his days as the defensive coordinator at Clemson, those defenses haven't looked quite the same since he left for Oklahoma. They've been excellent with the Sooners. They got some future NFL prospects on that squad. For Alabama, and I to a degree, there's one fact that helps Alabama, one that does not. The one that helps Alabama that I kind of ignored when I picked them to beat Georgia is, man, college football, it is hard to beat teams a second time. It really, really is. And still picked them. They beat Georgia in Athens, so it's like, they can do it again. And they got just absolutely demolished for 60 minutes. Ty Simpson was bad. The defense got cooked by Gunnar Stockton and the Bulldogs running game. Special teams errors, like Georgia completely annihilated the Tide. The thing that does not help Alabama is they have not played good football for a month. Like, they straight up have not. They beat LSU by 11. They scored 20 on LSU, who I know understands talent on defense, but that game was at home. Like, you gotta create some separation with you and the LSU Tigers. Then you blow out, I think it was like Eastern Illinois or some small school. Then you lose to Oklahoma. And then you barely survive the Iron Bowl against Auburn, and then you get the doors blown off against the Georgia Bulldogs. So Bama's been a mid-team. That was kind of a case that a lot of folks made for the playoff. Like, hey, Notre Dame and Miami should have been in. Bama should have been out because Bama hasn't been that good over the last month. And so with all those things taken into consideration, I went back and forth on this. I've already made my pick on the Saturday morning tailgate last Saturday. By the way, check out the Saturday morning tailgate while we're in the middle of this. Check it out tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Live on the Grid's YouTube and X accounts. Myself, Tim Barnard, and Arthur Hurst. We breaking down what is going to be a great weekend of matchups in college football in the playoff, and of course, reaction to tonight's game. After going through it, back and forth, I'm going with Oklahoma. Give me the Sooners. -1.5, and they win this game outright 24-20 over the Alabama Crimson Tide. 24-20 in a close defensive game. But the Sooners move on to the college football playoff quarterfinal, where they would then take on who would they take on? They would take on Indiana. Woo! How fun of a matchup would that be for the number 1 team in the country, led by the Heisman Trophy winner, my guy, Fernando Mendoza. All right, got a game tomorrow out of the ACC. the Miami Hurricanes. Out of the SEC, the Texas A&M Aggies. Texas A&M, 3-point favorite at home. Or is it three points? Three points. So obviously there's a controversy with Miami. There's already a chip on the Hurricanes' shoulders. Like, hey, nobody thought we should have been in the playoffs. Watch this. And it is a weird scenario where, God, the ACC is a weak conference, but the team that didn't even make their conference championship game because of some freaking weird tiebreakers. How 7-5 Duke gets in over 10-2 Miami is beyond me, but regardless, they get in the postseason as that last team that is not a Group of 5 team. So there's already the chip on their shoulder. We talked about Alabama not playing their best football over the course of, the last month or so. Lesser of a stretch, but the same can kind of be said about Texas A&M. You talk about a team that was down, was it 28-0 against South Carolina? I mean, just getting hammered by the Gamecocks. At home, by the way, at College Station. They end up surviving that game. Kudos to them. Kudos to them for surviving that adversity, but the comeback to beat the bad Gamecocks, that's not good. Then you talk about the fact that went on the road to Texas. Arch Manning was sensational. The defense for Texas stymied Marcel Reed and that entire Aggies offense. And so now they find themselves in this position where 7-seed home playoff game, they've earned that right. Again, their resume speaks for itself. The wins over, seems like Notre Dame, Missouri, like they've done their job. They've done their part to get to this position. But I believe in the line of scrimmage. And in a game and an offense for Miami where you really do not trust Carson Beck at all whatsoever, and I felt the same way about him at Georgia. As Lane Kiffin famously said on the Pivot podcast, he's like, they gave him how much money? Did they see his game against us? Talking about Carson Beck's game at Georgia against Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss team back in 2024. Evidently, they did not. 10 picks this year, not great. But I think this is a Miami Hurricanes team that can win the line of scrimmage, that can run the football effectively, occasionally hit the over-top play to Malachi Toney. I mean, it's all said and done. Give me the upset, baby. I've got the Miami Hurricanes over the Texas A&M Aggies by a final score of 28-23. Again, I think there's just an element of win in the trenches, win the line of scrimmage. I know it is. That place, College Station, is going to be absolutely deafening tomorrow. But the chip of Miami's shoulder of feeling like they were disrespected, like, yeah, of course we're a playoff team. We beat Notre Dame, which I thought was the right call. Both teams were 10-2. Miami won the head-to-head. Resumes, other than that, were identical. Miami should get in. I think they're going to beat Texas A&M tomorrow. I think we see an upset. On to our next game. Out of the American Conference, the Tulane Green Wave. Out of the Southeastern Conference, the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss, a big favorite at home, minus 17.5. So, of course, the big story in this game. No Lane Kiffin. Does an outstanding job. Ole Miss is one of the, if not the best offense in all of college football, at least among the Power 4 schools. North Texas did have a great offense themselves. I'd love to see Tennessee get their quarterback. But that's for the Vol view in the future. But for Ole Miss, top offense in the Southeastern Conference. You talk about Trinidad Chambliss, who's done a great job. They've run the football effectively with Lacey. They can do whatever they want on that side of the ball. For Tulane, it's a matter of can you stymie it? Can you find a way to keep it close enough to where you have a puncher's chance in the fourth quarter? But on the road, there's obviously no Lane Kiffin, which of course is not a good thing for Ole Miss. But that fan base is gonna be crazy, hotty-toddy, the whole bit. Like they're gonna be rocking. Hey, let's stick it to Lane Kiffin. Let's show Lane Kiffin we don't need him. Let's go win a national championship without him. I think Ole Miss. I think it's actually kind of close. First quarter and a half. Ole Miss slowly but surely pulls away. Give me the Rebels. Minus 17.5, 45-21 over Tulane. Ole Miss knocks off Tulane by a final score of 45-21. On to our next game. Out of the Sun Belt, the James Madison Dukes. Out of the Big Ten, the Oregon Ducks. Oregon, a big old favorite at home. I'm not going to lie. I really don't get. I think the playoff kind of messed this up a little bit. Bama, Oklahoma to kick us off. That's great. Tulane, Ole Miss should have been the first game. James Madison, Oregon, just because Oregon's on the West Coast, they can't put them at noon. Put that as the second game, and then put Miami A&M as the last game. If that was a night game at College Station, I might actually switch my pick to A&M, but that's not going to be the case. Listen, Oregon, to me, has the second best quarterback in all of college football in Dante Moore. I think Mel Kiper actually has him above Fernando Mendoza in the draft for next year. A lot can change. I don't agree with Mel. I think Fernando's sensational. He's clearly the number one pick, but I love Dante Moore as well. The arm strength and mobility, he brings a lot to the table, and he's the engine for this entire Oregon offense. And it's a great Oregon defense. We understand what what's my guy's name? Dan Lanning. Crap, forgot the Oregon coach's name. Has been outstanding. James Madison, to their credit, I'm sure they never thought in a million years that they'd be in this position. This is kind of the classic, hey, we're 16th seed in the NCAA tournament. We're just happy to be here. They won't admit it, nor should they, because they're competitors. They want to be in this position. They want to go into Austin Stadium, one of those Rockets environments in college football, and get a big-time W. At the same time, the talent gap is the Grand Canyon. Give me the Oregon Ducks big over James Madison, 41-16. Oregon gets the W and advances to the next round, 41-16 over James Madison, who has had an outstanding year. To their credit, out of the Sun Belt, but Oregon should win this game convincing. So if my predictions hold, got Oklahoma winning tonight, they would go to the Rose Bowl to take on Indiana. That's a great matchup. If Oregon wins over James Madison, they take on Texas Tech. Also a great matchup in the Orange Bowl. Ole Miss beating Tulane, which I think is going to happen. They would go to the Sugar Bowl for an SEC rematch against Georgia. Obviously, Georgia's the only team that beat Ole Miss this year, and Ole Miss had a 2-score lead in the second half, so they could have easily won that game. And finally, I think Miami is going to be A&M. They would go on to the Cotton Bowl to take on the defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Again, I try in these long playoff formats, again, outside of the NCAA tournament, because there's however many games. College football playoff 12 team, NFL playoffs, Major League Baseball, NBA. I try to go undefeated. I've never done. I have twice in the NFL gone divisional round to Super Bowl undefeated, but I lost, got some picks wrong on the wild card before that. So I'm trying to pull this off in the college football playoff. I like my chance to do it. Tonight's going to be the closest, or I guess the first two games really going to be kind of the most go either way. I did not mean to do the 6-7 thing accidentally. I apologize for that. It's taking over sports, man. The last two. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe it's a gift from college football that the two worst playoff games are last. That way we can pay a little bit more attention to the NFL games, which I'm going to go and predict right now. But before I do, let's go and show my record. It's a mixed bag. So overall, 138-86-1. Not bad. I can't complain. I'm 14 games under 500 against the spread. That's not great. Upset of the week is a long time ago in a galaxy far away. I was 4-2, and I'm now 5-10. So that segment's completely gone by the wayside. Bryson Bleak bet 6-9. That's about where I expected. This week is the ultimate Bryson Bleak bet. I have zero confidence in this one. And if I were a bet man, my dearly beloved child. It makes me feel a little bit better that as I look over the landscape, even professional bettors are struggling just to be at 500. That's what I'm certainly not a professional bettor. I'm not a bettor, period. So I'm 11 games that are 500 in that regard. You know what? Let's try something. We're going to try something live on the show. I usually say, hey, I feel good. 3-0 week, baby. And I've yet to have one this season. I ain't saying it all. It's like a no-hitter. If pitcher's 5-6 innings deep, hasn't given up a hit, don't talk to him. Don't say a word to him. Don't come near him. Don't look at him. That's what we're going to do. And let's see if it works, because I do kind of like my picks, but I'm not going to say it. So let's see how it plays out. All right. Here we go. Let's go and predict Week 16 in the National Football League, starting on Saturday evening from Washington. NFC East battle. You've got the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles going on the road to take on the Washington Commanders. Philadelphia is a favorite, -7. So the Eagles, it's pretty simple. They win this game, they wrap up the NFC East. They'll become the first team in 2 decades to win the NFC East back-to-back years. It's been the famous topsy-turvy division. Could be Philly, could be Dallas, Washington, Giants. Never know. Philly could put an end to that streak by getting a W over the 4-win Washington Commanders. So when I look at this matchup, obviously no Jay Daniels, who's been shut down for the year, should have been shut down for the year well before he was, but regardless. Philadelphia's offense, albeit against maybe the worst team in football, the Vegas Raiders, showed a pulse. Saquon Barkley had some big plays. Jalen Hurts looked mobile, was accurate, made some big throws down the field. A.J. Brown was active. It was all good vibes. Played a bad defense of Washington, albeit on the road. I'll say this, though. division matchups are tougher than just playing the Raiders, obviously, even if your even if the divisional team is terrible. But also the fact that, wait a second, Marcus Mariota has not been bad. He's had his moments as the backup of the Commanders. Almost beat Denver, who I think is a better team than Philadelphia today. Almost beat Denver at home on a Sunday night game. Whole country's going to be watching. Midday, Saturday, Fox, like people are going to be, the whole country's going to be watching. I've got Washington +7. Philadelphia, though, wins outright. I'm going to say 27-21. I do think this offense will continue to have some momentum because of what they showed against Vegas. And obviously, Washington's defense is atrocious. Commanders, though, +7. That's too many points for Philadelphia to cover based on the fact that it's a divisional matchup on the road, standalone game. I think the Eagles win 27-21, the Commanders +7. That will mean, though, Philadelphia will break the long 2-decade streak of us not having a repeat NFC East champion, but also they would be the first team, believe it or not, to clinch a division. I think Schefter said this is the latest since, I think, 2016. Latest we've been in the year since 2016, where all 8 divisions do not have a winner yet. So Philadelphia could become the first team to do that on Saturday evening. Saturday night, though, it is now time for my favorite segment of all time. It is simply called
Bettin Man.
If I Were a Bettin Man. I am looking at this NFC North clash featuring two rivals, a rivalry that goes back a century. The Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. The Packers, when I took this game, by the way, when I bet, air quotes, bet this game earlier in the week, because I love the line, it was Packers on the road -1.5. The line's flipped to Bears -1.5, but when I took it, it was Packers -1.5. Chicago had an atrocious offensive first half 2 weeks ago at Lambeau when these two teams squared off. Atrocious. Caleb was bad. He was inaccurate. The offense had no flow. Second half, they get it going. They end up tying the game. Kudos to Jordan Love and Green Bay for executing a go-ahead drive. Josh Jacobs doing his thing. Caleb Williams throws the ball late, ends up getting picked in the end zone, and the Packers end up winning the game. Since then, they lost Micah Parsons for the season. Since then, Christian Watson is out in all likelihood for this game, dealing with some chest injury. Any favoritism I have in this game has nothing to do with Jordan Love's production. Jordan Love's quietly having the best season of his career. If you talk about touchdown-interception ratio, if you're talking about just the overall command that he's had in the offense, he's been great. Dealing with injuries, Tucker Kraft's gone for the year. Watson's been in and out of the lineup, and he's been great when he's been in the lineup. Jaden Reed's been hurt. Kudos to Jordan Love for doing the job that he's done. But in Chicago, with the Bears with an opportunity to kind of wrap up the division, if we're being honest. I think technically the Lions would still have a shot to catch Chicago, and that's possible given what the Bears' upcoming schedule looks like. But if I were a Batman, give me Dub Bears over the Green Bay Packers +1.5 in a close game. 24-21. Given what Caleb and this Bears offense did against an elite Cleveland Browns defense on Sunday, at home in Chicago, they probably should have won at Lambeau despite a bad first half by Caleb. Now there's no Micah Parsons. Christian Watson's out. Everything tells you, pick the Chicago Bears in this spot, and that's exactly what I'm doing. If I were a bet man, love the Bears +1.5, and of course they get the outright W. Up next, for our Sunday games, you got a bad one. You've got a bad one. New York Jets on the road against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, didn't think I'd be saying this year. Not only are the Saints favored, but they're favored by a touchdown. They're favored by 6. So, look, the Jets are in quarterback hell, but maybe reading the reports about Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields' availability, something tells me Aaron Glenn and the front office of the Jets, they're tanking. They're trying to get Fernando Mendoza, which I don't blame them. I have always said in the show that the Jets is the place where all young quarterback dreams go to die. Better not screw this kid up because I think he has potential. They're trying to get Fernando. Fail for Fernando. I respect it. But speaking of teams that may or may not need a quarterback, maybe the Saints don't draft a quarterback in 2026 in a draft that's not that loaded at the position. Because Tyler Shough shown some promise last couple weeks. Executed the game-winning drive last week against Carolina, had a go-ahead fourth-quarter drive against the Tampa Bay Bucs. So the two teams that's going to be playing this weekend, vying for the NFC South, great against both of them. Showed some promise, showed some accuracy, some poise. I was a big Tyler Shough fan coming out of Louisville. Injury history, long-time college starter. I didn't love that, but by and large, he's been solid. So I think in this spot against a Jets team that's probably tanking, give me the New Orleans Saints -6 to win this game 26-14 over the New York Football Jets, who can only hope that the Giants lose some games, Tennessee lose some games, although neither team's going to draft a quarterback in their own right, so we will see in that regard. Up next, it is now time. Do we have it here? Do we have it? Okay, it is now time for my upset of the week. I'm sensing a winner. Give me the Tennessee Titans over the Kansas City Chiefs, 22-15. Tennessee +3.5, and the outright W in Nashville, one of my favorite cities in the country. Titans over the Chiefs in my upset of the week. Here's why. So first of all, there's the elephant in the room, or the two elephants in the room. Patrick Mahomes, God bless you, had the surgery earlier this week. Come back better than ever. I know you will, but he's done for the year. Kansas City, if they were, even if they had won against the Chargers, they're dead without Patrick Mahomes. Gardner Minshew, God bless him, good backup. That's about it. If this offense was atrocious with Mahomes, the heck they're going to look like without Mahomes, especially without Rashee Rice, without some of their McDuffie's not going to play this game. Like the Chiefs are sitting a lot of guys, probably themselves tanking for as high of a pick as they can. Hey, I respect it. Remember the San Antonio Spurs back in the 90s? David Robinson gets hurt, they tank, and they end up getting Tim Duncan out of it. I'd say that worked out okay for San Antonio. Obviously, the Chiefs aren't going to get the first pick, but hey, let's get as high of a pick as possible. Maybe leverage it into multiple first-rounders. Like, there's a lot of freedom that Brett Veach can have as the GM of this team if they get as high of a pick as possible. Top 10, potentially. And also for Tennessee, Cam Ward has looked good the last couple of weeks. Yeah, won at Cleveland. Yeah, kind of didn't outplay Shedeur Sanders, but played him on par. And then last week, made some pretty big-time throws. Just got, screwed over by his receivers, not being able to catch a cold. He made a similar play, rolling to his right, to what Caleb Williams made on that game against Cleveland. Difference is DJ Moore caught the pass. Forget the Titans receiver's name. He couldn't catch the pass against San Francisco. So Cam Ward, end of the season, in December, he's starting to show a little bit of promise. Upset of the week. I love Tennessee in the spot. You tell me I get the underdog against a Patrick Mahomes less Rashee Rice, Trent McDuffie less Chiefs team with a bad O-line? Like, yeah. I think Tennessee wins 22-15 in my upset of the week over the Kansas City Chiefs. Up next, you got the Buffalo Bills going on the road to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Bills are favored -10.5. So obviously at this point for Buffalo, it's just try and keep pace with the Patriots in the AFCs, which we'll see what happens in the Sunday night game, which of course I'll predict at the end of the segment. But this is a game I'm curious to see what we get out of Shedeur Sanders. And the reason I say that is, A, you're playing a bad defense. B, you're playing a much better football team, to say the very least. And so because of that, you are probably going to be trailing throughout the majority of this game. What are you going to do when the entire stadium knows that you got to throw the football against a bad Buffalo Bills defense? I'm curious to see. I'm pulling for Shedeur. I hope he plays well. The biggest story in this game, though, Myles Garrett has a chance to make NFL history. He has an opportunity to break the record currently held by the great Hall of Famer Michael Strahan, and also the future Hall of Famer TJ Watt, and break the NFL's all-time single-season sack record. He's a half sack away from doing it, so if he just gets one breakaway and Josh Allen don't get the ball out in time, then Myles Garrett makes history. I think he's going to do it on Sunday. I think Myles Garrett has a couple of sacks and sets his own mark that is going to be very, very difficult to break. But Buffalo's the better team. Buffalo's offense is outstanding. Cleveland's defense has shown some cracks in the armor, so I'm going to give the Buffalo Bills the win here. I do think they cover the 10.5, 30-17 over the Cleveland Browns. There'll certainly be some buzz in the stadium with Myles Garrett looking to break the sack record. I think he will. By the way, famously, Strahan broke the record on a future Hall of Famer, Brett Favre. Well, Garrett has a chance to do the same thing with a future Hall of Famer in Josh Allen, so that would be very fun to see. What is not going to be fun to see is this next game. It is now time for Bryson's Bleak Bet. It's one game each and every week that I have absolutely zero confidence in predicting, but hey, you got to predict them all. I don't know, man. You've got the Cincinnati Bengals going on the road to take on the Miami Dolphins. The 4-10 Bengals are a 4.5-point road favorite. So on one side of the coin, you've got a quarterback in Joe Burrow who we know is elite, but it doesn't sound like wants to be in Cincinnati very much. And it was kind of reflected in his play last week. All not to take credit from the Ravens, but Burrow was terrible last week against Baltimore. And the other side, you've got Quinn Ewers making the first start of his NFL career. And hope the kid plays well. You take advantage of this opportunity. But I was not a Quinn Ewers fan when he was at Texas. I famously called him on the show the Jimmy Garoppolo of college football, a guy who is carried almost entirely by the supporting cast around him, by Sark, by those weapons, by that defense, that offensive line. So let's see what he does. Bengals defense sucks. So does Miami's. I thought about taking the Dolphins because I think they'll be able to run the football effectively, and the Bengals can't stop anything, but they really can't stop the run. Joe Burrow's not going to lose a game to Quinn Ewers. It can't happen. Like, if this happens, then, Joe Burrow should just go ahead and request a trade and set out the last 2 games. But I do think the Bengals will win this game 27-20 over the Miami Dolphins. Listen, there's not a better defense and a better scenario that Quinn Ewers could find himself in to make his first start. 1 o'clock, not a standalone game, bad defense. Like, let's see how the kid does. But I think the Bengals win this one 27-20. Up next, I'm excited for this one. Even though I think the Eagles are going to win tomorrow, which would therefore eliminate the Dallas Cowboys, I'm excited to see this matchup. The Los Angeles Chargers coming to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is a favorite, -1.5. So, I feel like the only guy, whether it's television, radio, podcasting, print, social media, whatever, who has said, Dak's better than Herbert. Like, he is. He's dealt with lesser coaching, similar, and in some cases, worse offensive lines, worse defenses than Herbert. He plays in a tougher division than Herbert, and Herbert plays a tough one, but Dak has played in a tougher division. And Dak's beaten him twice in Herbert's house. Dak's better, and Dak has more playoff wins than Herbert because every quarterback who's ever won a playoff game in NFL history has more playoff wins than Justin Herbert because he's never won one. 6 years, or first 5 years, and now going to year 6 of his NFL career. And I think Herbert's excellent, but I've said Dak's better. This is fascinating because the Chargers offense has not been that good, not surprising, without their 2 tackles, with Amar and Hampton dealing with injuries. But it is the Dallas Cowboys defense we're talking about. This is the Cowboys defense that made J.J. McCarthy look like the definitive future. Maybe he is. I don't think he is, but maybe he is in Minnesota. What's Justin Herbert going to do? The Cowboys, as we all know, don't have a pass rush. Feels like they had a guy in the building that could help them with that, but neither here nor there. Dak Prescott against Justin Herbert, I just believe in it. Just George Pickens, don't pout for the 3rd game in a row. I've got the Cowboys winning this one, high-scoring shootout, 31-27 over the LA Chargers. I'll tell you what, if Philadelphia were to somehow lose, Dallas goes in like, we've got a pulse. I mean, we've got Washington on Christmas. Philadelphia's got to go to Buffalo, and all of a sudden we go into Week 18. It's like, Dallas can win the division with the win and a Philly loss. I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows? If the Eagles end up losing tomorrow, Dallas, I think, even has more juice. I don't think that'll happen, but I still think the Cowboys get the W. I'll take them at -1.5 to get the W. 31-27. What do we have next? Speaking of the Vikings, they go on the road to take on the Giants in the Meadowlands. The Vikings are favored -2.5. So J.J. McCarthy, to his credit, albeit against 2 atrocious defenses, Washington and Dallas, has looked pretty good. Hasn't turned the football over except for one batted ball by Quinnen Williams on the first play last week. But look good against Washington. I've always said this about JJ. I'm not a believer in just about anything he brings to the table. First of all, he can't stay healthy. His deep ball accuracy isn't good. His accuracy in general is not good. He has a strict over-reliance on the running game, and that goes back to college at Michigan. The thing I've always given the kid is better arm than people give him credit for. He's got a whip. He can zip it over the middle. His deep ball is terrible, but I guess it's better to overthrow guys, and it's not like Tua where he's making guys have to fair catch or something. So against a Giants pass rush that is good, I think Minnesota tries to run the football because the Giants defense is atrocious at stopping the run. I think this is very much an Aaron Jones type of game plan for Minnesota. I think they get the W on the road in the Meadowlands against the New York Giants, 27-20. Jackson Dart has his moments, hopefully none of which including the medical tent. Vikings 27, Giants 20. Big matchup in Charlotte, North Carolina, featuring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. The Bucs are favored in this game by a field goal. So, self-explanatory. 2 7-7 teams. Winner takes first place in the division, has an opportunity to clinch if the loser loses. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think whoever wins this one, both teams will win next week, and then, or potentially win next week, although based on Carolina's schedule, Tampa's schedule, we'll see. And then Week 18 could decide the NFC South for all we know. So, Carolina's been an okay home team this year. So-so. They've had games they've scored 9 against a bad Buffalo Bills defense, and they've had games where they scored 31 against an excellent Rams defense, albeit 7 of those came on a pick 6 off Stafford, but still. For Tampa, they haven't looked the same that they looked early in the season in 2 months. They lose an absolutely inexcusable game at home short week to Atlanta and Kirk Cousins. Kyle Pitts looks like Gronk over the course of that Thursday night in Tampa. You're up 14 the fourth quarter. You end up having Atlanta on a 2nd and 28 on their last drive, end up letting them get in field goal range and walk you off at the gun. That can't happen. So extra time to prepare. We know Bowles was heated after that game, just throwing F-bombs every 5th word at the press conference. We know Baker, the competitor he is. I still think Tampa's offense is that good. I have no clue if Mike Evans is going to be able to give it a go. I'm going to go with Tampa to win this game 23-17. I think it's a close one. You know, down the wire, the Bucs defense makes a stop at the end and kind of redeems themselves off of last week's game against the Falcons. I should say love. I'm a believer in Bryce as a starting quarterback in this league. I can't take him over Baker in a must-win game in this spot. So I will take the Buccaneers 23-17 over the Carolina Panthers. It is now time for the second game for my favorite segment of all time. It is called
Bettin Man.
If I Were a Bettin Man. I love this one. I'm looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars going on the road to Mile High to take on the Denver Broncos. Denver is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Now, the Broncos have won, 11 straight games? 11 games in a row, start 1-2, haven't lost since. Get a big-time win where I gave Bo Nix a lot of love, and deservedly so. I thought it was the best game of his career. It was the first time where I looked at Bo Nix, I'm like, okay, the defense isn't playing their best game. Surtain made some plays. Once Christian Watson went down, the Broncos stymied the Packers. But first 2.5 quarters, what you going to do? Because your defense ain't showing up to the party. And Bo Nix says, hey, I got you. I'm going to keep us in the game, keep us within striking distance. And then obviously the Parsons and Watson injury killed Green Bay. But kudos to Bo Nix for taking advantage of that. And he was great even before those 2 injuries. And then you have Jacksonville coming in. You have a Jaguars team that, to their credit, actually just extended Jacoby Myers, who was a good pickup from them, from the Vegas Raiders. A defense that pretty good stopping the run. These are 2 teams, by the way, the top 2 teams in the entire NFL in terms of stopping the run. So don't expect RJ Harvey to have a huge game for the Denver Broncos. Don't expect Travis Etienne to have a big game for the Jaguars. This is going to come down to the quarterbacks. And if that's the case, then I'm going to take, do we have the graphic? I'm going to take this guy. The guy, Trevor Lawrence, who in the last 3 games has been the best quarterback in football. 10 total touchdowns, no picks. 123 rating, 81 QBR 0 to 100, and the Jags are averaging an average. The Jags are averaging 36 points a game post-Thanksgiving. So give me the Jacksonville Jaguars, baby. 25-24 plus 3.5. If I were a bet man, love me some Jags, love me some Trevor Lawrence. Go show everybody, show America why you guys are a potential contender in a wide open AFC. When I saw this line, I was like, oh, baby, this is Jags all the way. Up next, what do we have up next? Okay, we've got Atlanta Falcons, Arizona Cardinals. Falcons are favored -3 in Arizona. Look, extra time to prepare. Kirk Cousins played well against the Tampa Bay Bucs last week. Arizona's defense has completely fallen apart. I could see Jonathan Gannon, who I did like actually, but it hasn't worked this year nearly to the level that Arizona was hoping to make some progress this year. I called them a frisky team, maybe could be in the playoff mix week 16, 17. That has not been the case. Atlanta's offense has shown signs of life with Kirk Cousins, so I think they continue that. They get the dub on the road. Give me Atlanta -3 on the road against the Arizona Cardinals, 27-21. Up next, you've got the Las Vegas Raiders on the road against the Houston Texans. Texans are favored by 14. I'll be honest, this was almost my final if I were a bet man game, but I decided against it for the simple fact that these big lines have kind of been biting me in the butt. San Francisco almost blew it last week. They were the only W I got, -12.5 against Tennessee. Kudos to Shanahan for kicking a field goal late and getting me the W there. But listen, just say it out loud. Kenny Pickett on the road against the Houston Texans defense. Enough said. Texans by a lot, 31-7. This thing is not even close. This game is over with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. Houston, and by the way, CJ Stroud, to his credit, has played much better. Played the best ball he's played since his rookie year when he was the offensive rookie of the year. Like what I've seen from CJ, and I like what I've seen from this Texans offensive line, which I wasn't a believer in coming into the season. So give me Houston 31-7. Up next, it's my team. My beloved Pittsburgh Steelers going on the road to take on the Detroit Lions, who, let's keep it a buck, are my favorite NFC team. I believed in the Lions before they ever made an NFC Championship game back in 2023, which I said that they would make. So kudos to Dan Campbell and those Lions. Lions are favored -7. I actually think we're going to see some points in this game. First of all, terrible news for the Steelers is that TJ Watt is not going to play this game. He's still recovering from the punctured lung. Get well soon, TJ. Don't rush back from that kind of injury, because that's obviously can be very, very serious. So we know the book on Jared Goff is pretty simple. If Jared Goff is forced to move a little bit, if he's dealing with pressure, he is terrible. If Jared Goff is a clean pocket, he will eat you alive. And given the fact that this is a Steelers defense, show the numbers. Against the pass, they're 29th. 216.6 opponent pass yards per game. That ranks 29th in the National Football League. 27th in the league. Do the Steelers defense rank on third down? 42.4% is what they give up. The Lions on third down, quite good. They were excellent last week on third down against the Rams. Amon-Ra St. Brown might have a field day against Joey Porter Jr. I hate to say. I hope Joey Porter gets a pick here. Off Jared Goff sets us up in short field. But against this Lions defense, Aaron Rodgers, he's played at Ford Field a number of times, going back to his days in Green Bay. I think this offense, they scored 4 straight touchdowns against Miami last week. I think they have a few moments. I think DK Metcalf has maybe 2 touchdowns. But on Monday's show, I'm going to come in saying, see, I told y'all out here talking, oh, Tomlin, hey, you people saying he should have been fired. Y'all were idiots. I have a feeling Monday's show, I'm going to be saying, I told you so. That Detroit Lions offense, Dan Campbell's offense versus Mike Tomlin's defense. Hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be Dan Campbell's offense. Give me the Lions -7, 34-24 over my Pittsburgh Steelers. It is now time for my favorite segment of all time. Is the final game for
Bettin Man.
If I were a bet man, I'm looking at, and I don't usually do this for the Sunday night game, but I like this one a lot. I'm looking at the Sunday night football game featuring the New England Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are favored by a field goal, -3. So I gotta admit, man, this line doesn't make any sense at all to me. It really, really doesn't. So you mean to tell me I get the Patriots blew a big lead against the Bills last week? I hammer them for that. They have not been a good second half team. Matter of fact, we can show you the numbers. The Patriots, number 1 in the NFL in points per first half. Number 1, 16. Second half, they average about 10.6 points per game. That ranks 22nd in the National Football League. So they've got to be better. Can't rest on their laurels. But if there were ever a coach that would have his guys ready to go for a game like this. You just blew a 21-0 lead. The Buffalo Bills, we imagine, will have already won against the Browns earlier, so they are breathing down your neck for the AFC East title, which they've won, of course, the last 5 years. I get the Ravens are desperate, especially if my Steelers were to win, then the Ravens are really desperate because then they don't control their destiny at all for the AFC North. I think Drake May, against this Ravens defense, has a big-time bounce-back performance. I think this Patriots defense stymies a Ravens offense that I don't know if you guys have been watching, but has not been very good. If I were a bet man, love the Patriots. +3, 27-20 over the Baltimore Ravens. They continue to stay atop the AFC East. Again, I said before the season, or not, I should say before the season started, I didn't think the Patriots would be this good. But I said about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, that it would be a disappointment if the Patriots finish worse than 13-4. And I think it's going to end up being 14-3. Their last games, I think, are against Miami and the Jets. They'll win both and be, likely the 2 seed in the AFC. I guess it depends on what happens with Denver tomorrow on Sunday against the Jags, because I think the Jags are going to win that game. That's one of my if I were a betting man games. But there you go. That's how things going to play out. All right. That is all the time I have for today's show. I appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, on Twitch, on X, and on Instagram. Appreciate everybody stopping by on this Friday. Got a great week planned. So, of course, Monday we'll have reaction to NFL, to college football playoff. Wednesday's going to be fun, though. So, Wednesday's show, we haven't locked in the time yet, but it's almost certainly going to be at noon. It's Christmas Eve. Not asking you to watch the show at 6 Eastern on Christmas Eve. You guys are waiting for Santa. You guys are maybe having your Christmas Eve parties. So we're going to be doing the show earlier in the day, and we're going to be doing a segment that I love to do. I've been doing it for the last few years on the show, the carving it up naughty and nice list in the world of sports. I love doing it each and every year. If I always say Santa commissioned me to take care of the naughty and nice list in the sports department, so I will do my best for the big man himself. And so you'll definitely want to stay tuned for that. And of course, Friday, we'll have reaction to Christmas NFL, Christmas NBA. It's going to be an absolute blast. You're in for a treat of a slew of shows. It's our gift to you on Carving It Up, the shows that we'll have planned for you next week. Tomorrow morning, though, check us out, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time, the Saturday Morning Tailgate Podcast. Myself, Tim Barnard, and Arthur Hurst. We're going to be reacting to tonight's game, Alabama, Oklahoma, which is sure to be a doozy. Cannot wait. I got the Sooners winning that one. Of course, we'll predict the 3 playoff games for tomorrow. We'll also give some reaction to the Heisman Trophy controversy, which, again, you could check out my reaction to that on the channel, the Diego Pavia segment. It's doing really well on YouTube, so please be sure to check it out whenever you have the opportunity to do so. We'll do that. We'll do a contenders versus pretenders segment. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check us out tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time, the Saturday Morning Tailgate Podcast. And, of course, check out Carving It Up next Monday, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, YouTube, X, Twitch, Instagram, and basically anywhere you can watch. We're going to get on TikTok soon, though. We're working on that. All right. Hope everybody has a great, great weekend. Please continue to stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. I hope my Steelers beat the Lions, though. I hope. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.